friends, this is Achal, and as you know, root words are very important for you. So here we are again on a session of root words. I hope the previous few videos must have helped you like a lot. Why? Because whenever you have a root word, you're able to understand the meanings of the words given, right? So I hope that would have helped you out in understanding the meaning of the sentences, and that would help you out in understanding the meaning of the paragraph as well, right? So when we talk about root words, you very well know we have a word. A root word can be in the beginning, it can be at last, it can be in the middle of the word, right? So this is very important while learning vocabulary and of course to develop your vocabulary skills. So the first root word for today is DICT. If you have watched the previous video, you must be knowing the meaning of this root word. Why? Because it was given in the previous as well. Why? Because when I was explaining you the meaning of contra or counter, we had a word that was related to this, right? So dict actually means something related to speak or speech. Something related to speak or speech, right? So we'll be having the words according to this only, like we have contradict or contradiction, we have prediction, we have dictate, we have dictator, we have jurisdiction, right? Now see, be it in the end of the sentence, be it in the middle, you will have a root word in a sentence, right? And if you learn those root words, you'll be able to solve any question, any vocabulary in a matter of seconds, right? So we have contradict. So as I told you, contra means opposite. Contra means against. So when I associate contra with dict, that means you will speak, you will have a speech, you will have a set of words, but in against of something, right? So contradict means what? To express the opposite. To express the opposite, to say something against somebody or something, right? Then we have prediction. I-O-N. The word ends with I-O-N, and every word that ends with I-O-N is a noun. That means it's a name of a process. Now you have I-O-N, which means it's a name. Dict means speak. Pre means before, right? Pre means before. So prediction, what does this mean? It means a statement foretelling the future. That means half of our population is going crazy, is going mad about this thing only, a statement foretelling the future. That means they believe in what people tell them this is about to happen in your life. It will actually not happen, but then they say that means the people are going crazy about this, and this is what we mean by prediction. When you have a statement and that statement foretells your future, that something is about to happen, right? Then we have dictate. Now, when I say dict, that means to speak or speech. Whenever we have ate at the end of any word, this means it is a verb. This means it is a verb. So dictate, what does this mean? It means to speak out aloud. To speak out loud. Aloud. That means if you are speaking loudly to make somebody else understand, if you're speaking loudly to make somebody else hear what you're saying, that is what we mean by dictate. You must have got dictations in your childhood days, right? The teacher used to speak some lines, some paragraphs, and then you need to write it, right? So that is what we mean by dictate, to speak out aloud to make somebody else understand what you are saying. Next is dictator. Dictator is a person. Generally, when we have administrator, so whenever we have T-O-R written somewhere, this again gives you a meaning of a person, right? This will take you to a person. So dictator means the only cruel ruler. For example, if you are known to a fact that's North Korean ruler, that North Korean ruler is a dictator. That's somebody who does not allow anybody else to speak. That's somebody who does not allow anybody else to make or form rules for him, right? He himself forms the rule. He himself destroys them. He himself wants his public to follow that. This is what we mean by dictator. In short, you can take the name of Hitler as well. Next is jurisdiction. when I say jurisdiction, you have the word dict, right? Dict means what? What? Speech. Then you have jury. Jury is a group of judges. Again, I told you the word ends with ION. It says the name of a process. When I say jurisdiction, this means a statement announced by the group of judges. The judgment that they give is what we mean by, the conclusion that they come at is what we mean by jurisdiction, right? So jurisdiction, jurisdiction is what we mean by speech or speak. So whenever you have a word that says dict, I hope you will be able to answer that vocabulary very easily. Why? Because now you know the meaning of dict, and this will help you out in knowing the meaning of any word that has this root word in it. Now the next root word that we have here is domain. It says domain. When I say domain, this means to master somebody. If you are trying to force somebody, if you are trying to emphasize somebody, and actually if you're trying somebody to make his life according to you. Actually, so if you're trying to rule somebody, that is the perfect word. If you're trying to rule somebody, that is what we mean by domain. You're trying to master someone. You want that person should do as you say. You sit down. So that person sits down. You stand up. That person stands up. This is what you want to do when you say domain. You have a very common word that says dominate. We have domineering. Then we have dominium. We have predominate. Then we have over dominance. Okay? Now, when I say dominate, again, I told you that the word ends with ate. This will always be used as a verb. So if I say dominate, what does this mean? Domin means master, ate means verb. So you are trying to rule somebody, that is what we mean by dominate, right? To master somebody or something. If you're trying to master something, if you're trying to master somebody, that is what we mean by dominate. For example, stop dominating me. That means stop telling me what should I do and what I shouldn't, okay? Next says domineering. Now again, I have a word ing in the end of this word. Again, that means it is a verb. Domineering means excessively controlling. If somebody tries to control you excessively, except your parents, that is what you mean by domineering. That means if you're not allowed to go out, you're not allowed to wear this, you're not allowed to eat this. This is what all of it is, domineering. That means, so somebody is trying to control you up to which it doesn't have an extent. So this is what we mean by domineering. Next is dominium. Dominium means ownership or control of a property. So when you try to take hold of a property, in Hindi you have a word kabza. So this is what we mean by dominium. When you try to own something, control something, when you try to own a property through forcefulness, that is what we mean by dominium. If you want to get that property registered under your name through forcefulness, that is what we mean by dominium. Next is predominate. As I told you, there's a word called pre, and this means before. Right? This means before. And domin means to master. Ate means verb. Dominate, what does this mean? Dominate means to master somebody. Pre means before. That means if somebody takes or somebody gets a power, you get it before them. If you get the power before somebody and before everybody else, that is what we mean by predominate. That means to have more power than others and before them, right? Next is over dominance. Over again means more than a level, more than extent. Then dominance means what? Mastery, control. So over dominance, what does this mean? Again, excessively dominating. Excessively dominating, that means somebody is trying to dominate you like hell. That is what we mean by over dominance, right? So I suppose now you'll be clear with dict and domin. The other word for the day will be dine. See, DYN, this word talks about the power. This word talks about the energy. Okay. DYN, it talks about power, it talks about energy, it talks about strength. This is what we have with dyne, right? So the first word that we have is dynamo or dynamotor, right? See, dynamo or dynamotor, what does this mean? Then we have dynamite, we have dynamic, we have dynamist, we have aerodynamics, right? Now you have a lot of words here. When I say dynamo or dynamotor, see, when we have motor, this is related to a machine, right? Whenever we have motor, this is related to a machine. So dynamo and dynamotor mean the same. These are synonyms to each other. That means, it means a generator of energy. Any machine or anything that generates energy, that generates power through it, that is what we mean by dynamo or dynamotor. For example, if you do not get proper supply, proper water supply at your place, you place a motor there, right? And with that motor, force of energy is developed, is generated, and through that you get a proper water supply. And that is what we mean by dynamo or dynamotor. A generator of energy which will help you out in different things. Next is dynamite. Dynamite, it's a kind of bomb. I hope you've heard of it, right? Dynamite again is a word that can be a powerful explosive, right? A powerful explosive. Explosive, that means a bomb, and this bomb will be highly powerful. That means if this gets exploded, it will harm a lot of people, a lot of area, right? A huge area. So this is what we mean by dynamite. Then we have dynamic. Dynamic means something which has physical power in it, okay? Having or owning physical power. Please pronounce it power and not power. Okay, so dynamic means having physical power in it. That means if something or somebody has a lot of strength in it, has a lot of power in it, then we use the word dynamic. The next is dynamist. Again, you get a root word, and that is IST. Whenever we have IST in the end of the word, this always expresses a person. And when I say dynamist, this is a person, one who believes in dynamism. What does this mean? One who believes in dynamism. We understand one who believes, one who trusts, one who supports. But what? Dynamism. That means forcefulness. If somebody believes in forcefulness, that this has to be done no matter what you say, because I have said that. The ruler of North Korea is an example for this. Okay. Then we have aerodynamic. When I say the word aero, this is always and always related to air. This is related to air. Dynamic is related to energy. This is related to power. So aerodynamic is nothing but the study of motion of air. How the air moves and what kind of energy does it generate. This is what we mean by aerodynamic. I suppose you are clear with the meanings of dict, domain, dyne. Now the next word that we have is dys. Now, it will not be DIS, rather it would be DYS, right? So, DYS, this word will kind of mean DIS only, but it will have different meaning with it. Let's discuss that as well. So, the word is DYS. This means an abnormal or a bad thing. So whenever you have DYS associated to something, this will always explain something abnormal or bad. For example, you must have heard of this word, dyslexia. Now here again you have a root word, right? I'll tell you later on. Then you have dyspepsia. Here also you have a root word, Pepsi. You must have heard about it, or you must have drunk it, right? So the other word is dystopia. Then we have Discretion. Then we have dysphonic. Right. So, now see, Dyslexia, dyspepsia, dystopia, dyscrasia, dysphonic. You have a lot of words like this, right? But when you have this will be related to what? This will be related to abnormal or bad. When I say you have a word lex in a word, when I say you have lex in a word, lex is another root word that means word. When I say lexicology, this means the study of arrangement of words, right? So lex is what we mean by word. So lex is also a root word, right? When I say dyslexia, this means an inability to use or handle words. When the words are presented to you, if you're not able to arrange them, if you're not able to pronounce them, if you're not able to write the words as they are, that is what we mean by dyslexia. It is an impairment of the ability to handle words. How to write them? In what way is it should be used? In what way the words need to be arranged to form a sentence? This is what we mean by dyslexia, right? Then we have dyspepsia. Pepsi. This is a root word, actually. Pepsi, the word, it means related to digestion. How you drink something or how you eat something, and does it get digested or it doesn't get digested. This is what we mean by Pepsi. When I have placed with when I have placed Pepsi with this means what? This means that you're talking about something that has a relation with bad or abnormal, and of course it is a digestion, so it should be abnormal digestion. When you're not able to digest something that you've just drunk or you've had, that is what we mean by dyspepsia. Next is dystopia. Dystopia means an imaginary place. An imaginary place of total destruction, total misery. There's a place, we have it in our imagination, but it's actually not there. In reality, it's not there. For example, if we talk about hell, people say that if you do wrong things, you will be fried in the oil, right? So this is a place, but we actually don't have that, in my opinion. So that's just an imaginary place to try to make people scared of it, right? So this is an imaginary place, and that's of total misery, total destruction. That means if you make suffer somebody in this world, on this earth, then in that case you will be suffering in this place. That is an imaginary place where you will be fried in the hot oil. So this is something that's an imaginary place. It may be there, it may not be there. So that's dystopia, right? Then we have dyscrasia. Dyscrasia means an abnormal bodily condition. And why does it happen? It happens because we have poison in our blood. If we have poison in our blood, our body starts to become abnormal. That is what we mean by dyscrasia. An abnormal bodily condition due to poison in blood, right? The other word is dysphonic. Now we have the word phone, P-H-O-N. Phone is another root word that says what? It means related to speech. It means related to speak. So dysphone, what does this mean? This is related, that means bad or abnormal will be written here. So dysphonic means an impairment in speech. When you are unable to speak, or when you have a difficulty in speaking, like people have a problem of stammering, right? They cannot speak proper words. So that is what we mean by dysphonic. When somebody has an impairment, when somebody has a difficulty in speaking words out, right? So I suppose this is also clear to you. Dyn, this, then you have domain, and you had dict. I suppose this is absolutely, these are absolutely clear to you. Apart from these, you learnt many root words here as well, right? So let's begin the last root word and end the session, right? So it's like you. The word is you. When I say vomit, it's you, right? But then it doesn't mean, it's the opposite of what we actually say. That's EU, this means a bad, negative thing. But when I say EU, this means this is related to good. This is related to well, wellness, kindness, okay? So we have words like euphemism, we have euphoria, you have euphonious, Again, you have the word phone, right? I just told you the meaning of this word. Then you have eubiotics. Then you have euthermic, right? See, when I say euphemism, again, ISM is a word that defines the name of a process, right? So euphemism, what does this mean? Replacing an offensive word with an inoffensive word. See, inoffensive word. Now I'll tell you what does this mean. We have two words, like we have jealous, we have envy. When I say jealous, I hate you that you have it. When I say envy, that means I wish I could have that, right? So you have two words, both mean the same, but one is positive and the other is negative. So what you do, you replace an offensive, that means jealous, with an inoffensive, that means envy. When you replace a negative word with a positive word, that is what we mean by euphemism, right? Next is euphoria. Euphoria means feeling of well-being. When you feel relaxed, when you feel good about something, that is what you feel euphoria, right? That is when you feel, that is when you have a feeling of euphoria. Then we have euphonious. Again, I told you the word phone means sound, that means something related to speech, and euphonious, O-U-S, whenever a word ends with O-U-S, that will form an adjective, okay? So when I say euphonious, what does this mean? It means that you're talking about something that has melodious sound, right? Euphonic, having a pleasant sound is what we mean by euphonious, right? Next is biotics and eubiotics. Biotics is related to health. Biotics is related to health, and if we talk about, and actually the study of health, okay? So eubiotics, what does this mean? It means the study of living in a healthy state. What should you eat? What should you drink? Where should you go? Where should you stay? If you're going out in a polluted place, you should cover your nose, you should cover your mouth, and you should not be having cigarettes. That's actually, that harms your body, okay? So don't do that. And even if you do, how does it matter? Anyway, so if I say euthermic, the other word is euthermic. We know therm means heat, right? Therm means heat. Eu means what? Good, pleasant. So euthermic, what does this mean? Again, you learned a word, that's therm, right? So euthermic, what does this mean? It means an optimal temperature. It's not too cold, it's not too hot to endure, but an optimal temperature. That means you can actually understand, you can actually adjust with the temperature and you're feeling good about it, right? So you learned a lot of root words like dict, domin, dine, dis and you. Other than that, you also learned therm, phone, Pepsi, ion that ends with, what do you call it, noun, 8, verb, ter is a person, pre means before, ist is again a person, lex means words. Similarly, therm means heat, phone means sound, and Pepsi is related to digestion. So I suppose this was clear to you, and I want you, I've only told you 5 words from one root word, but I want you to make as many as you can, because if you make it, you'll be helping yourself out, okay? So keep watching Adda247 and don't leave us ever. Bye-bye.